Okay, who is there anyone who would like to start reading?
I'll read, Mataji.
Thank you, Karina. Thank you.
A few days to hours before death. Eventually, your patient may become nonverbal and may not respond to external stimuli such as talking or light touch. Not every hospice patient enters this stage, but most patients I have cared for have. Some hospice professionals refer to this end stage as actively dying. The patient may appear to be in a coma-like state, but has most likely entered this final stage of the dying process. The longest I have seen a patient remain in this stage was 6 days, but that was very unusual. Typically, patients will remain in an actively dying stage from 24 to 72 hours. Even though he may not respond, your patient can still hear you and others. Be sure nothing is said in his presence that you would not want him to hear. For a devotee, continuous chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra should be performed at this crucial time. Srila Prabhupada writes, if one somehow or other remembers the holy name of Narayan, Krishna, or Ram at the end of life, he immediately achieves the transcendental result of going back home, back to Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam 8:1-48. Whether or not your patient is responsive to verbal or other stimuli, pain medications for comfort should be continued. By now, pain or other necessary medications that were previously administered orally should have been converted to more tolerable routes, such as sublingual or transdermal. Even though your
sublingual is under the tongue, so it could be absorbed through the mucous membranes in the mouth. So it's either, it would be under the tongue. So they're not going to be able to swallow at this point. So you would change the route of the medication. That's all that's saying. It sounds complicated, but it's not. Okay. And you wouldn't have to do it yourself as a caregiver. The nurse, the hospice nurse and doctor would do that for you. Okay.
Even though your patient cannot verbalize her pain, it does not mean she is not feeling discomfort. Continue administering pain medicine and other medications for comfort as prescribed by the physician. The following signs of impending death may or may not occur, but if present, are indications that the patient will probably pass away within a day or two, or even within hours. The patient's breathing may become slower. His lungs may fill with fluid, making each breath sound as though he is underwater. This rattling sound is caused by accumulation of secretions in the large airways and is sometimes referred to as the death rattle. Because the patient is too weak to cough, secretions may also collect in the back of his throat and airway. These secretions are normal and consist of saliva, mucus, and any other liquids that are introduced into the patient's mouth, such as water from toothets or liquid medication.
Toothets, I don't know if I've mentioned them before, but they're just little sponges, like an inch big, and they're on the tip of like a little lollipop stick, and you dip them in fresh water and wipe your patient's mouth and lips so that they're refreshed, okay, and they don't dry out. And you clean the patient's mouth with them. They're easy to get. They even have them on Amazon.com, so you can get them anywhere in the world. I even got them in Delhi. So believe it or not, you can get them at a medical supply store in Delhi. So yeah, you can get them online. And they're very useful at the end when they're in this stage. And I just wanted to mention quickly that it even mentions, Prabhupada mentions in the Bhagavatam in a purport, death rattle. So that's even in the Bhagavatam, the term death rattle, the sound that you make at the end of life in this actively dying stage. Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, it's fine. Normally, a healthy person is able to clear the throat and swallow or spit any excess secretions. At the end of life, however, a person may become too weak to clear his throat and swallow secretions. Altered levels of consciousness, such as when a patient is lethargic or comatose, may also impair a patient's ability to clear his airway, causing secretions to build. This causes a rattling sound when air passes through the airway. This sound may get louder as each hour passes. While there is no definitive way of knowing how these secretions affect a patient's comfort when he is actively dying and unable to speak, we can only hope that the discomfort is minimal. The increasingly louder sounds he makes may become extremely disturbing to loved ones.
Can I just say, sorry, there's a lot to add to this. There's a little patch called a scopolamine, and you can put that, the doctor will recommend it usually, and there, it just goes right behind the bottom of, right behind the earlobe, the bottom of the earlobe, like where you would wear an earring. Okay, so right behind it, you would put the little scopolamine patch, and it dries up some of those secretions in the lungs, believe it or not. So it will help with that death rattle. It will make the patient more comfortable at this time. Okay, so I don't think I put it in the book. I may have in the medication area. But anyway, just know that there is something you can use. Travali, is there anything new that they have out besides that to help dry up the secretions? Travali?
Sorry, Mataji, this is Keval Bhakti. She just stepped
Oh,
away for 1 second because you moved
oh
up.
no, that's okay. That's
Right.
okay. If she's busy with the kids. Okay, can we just continue and we'll ask her that question later?
Sure. What can you do? There are a few practical things you can do to help minimize or even eliminate the death rattle. Reposition your patient. Sometimes turning a person from her back to her side will be enough to clear excess secretions from the airway.
Yeah.
In addition, raise the head of the bed to help promote drainage. Decrease the amount of water intake. Keep your patient's lips, as well as the inside of his mouth, moist with wet sponges, touthettes. However, minimize the amount of water that will drain down the throat by squeezing excess water from the sponge before using it.
Yeah.
Give can you pronounce that word?
Cholinergic.
Cholinergic
Yeah.
medicine as prescribed by the physician.
Oh, here we go.
Anticholinergic medications such as atropine or scopolamine help dry up excess secretions, thus decreasing the loud rattling sound when breathing.
Yeah.
Apnea may be present more often and for longer periods of time. This chaotic pattern of breathing, consisting of periods of apnea, followed by increased depth and frequency of respiration, is called
Cheney Stokes. It's the two doctors.
Cheney-Stokes
Yeah.
respiration.
Dr. Cheney and Dr. Stokes came up with this. So they named it after themselves.
The patient's skin may feel cooler to the touch and may appear bluish in her hands and feet. Mottling may increase at this stage and may be seen in the knees, ankles, or elbows. Discoloration can travel down the legs or other parts of the body within hours and is a further sign of further decrease in circulation.
Mm.
The patient's eyes may remain open or partially open and may have a fixed stare without blink reflex. The pupils may have a glassy appearance. An occasional tear may flow from the tear ducts, but is not necessarily an indication of the patient crying.
Yeah, it could just mean that the tear ducts are emptying out. Okay, so it doesn't always mean that there's a crying going on. Okay, and also if the eyes may very well stay half open, and if you kind of like click, click your fingers in front of, in front of the eyes, there's no blink reflex. So don't let that scare you. That's normal at this point in the actively dying stage. Now, remember, this usually lasts between 24 to 72 hours. So 1 to 3 days. Average is about 48 hours, around 48 hours. okay, with this actively dying stage. Okay, go ahead, Prabhu. I'm sorry.
Although that's okay, we appreciate the input.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Although it is recommended that we do not bother a patient at this time by taking vital signs, it may be necessary to know that during this final stage, his blood pressure may probably decrease and his pulses may feel weaker and more difficult to locate. Bodily temperature is usually normal, but I have had patients whose temperatures rose to 105 degrees Fahrenheit the night before they passed away. Is there anybody else who would like to read, or should I continue?
Anybody else? You're a really good reader. You want to continue or are you tired?
Assisting your patient with closure.
Great.
Even when patients are in the actively dying stage, some for days, enduring severe physical stressors, as if waiting for something to be said or someone to arrive. I recall a 28-year-old gentleman dying of an AIDS-related illness. For several days, he remained nonverbal and struggled for each breath. Finally, his father, a devout minister who had disapproved of his son's lifestyle, came to his bedside. Sensing that this was the person my patient was probably waiting to see, I told his father, "He has been waiting for you, sir. Please tell him everything you need to tell him. And if you are able, tell him what he needs to hear. Please give him permission to let go." With tears in his eyes, his father softly whispered, "I am sorry for any pain I have caused you, my son. I always loved you, but now it's time for you to go in peace." My patient took his last breath and passed away. Like this young man, I have seen many patients linger in the final stages of life until loved ones told them something they needed to hear. Sensitivity to these matters of disclosure for a dying person is essential in hospice care. For a devotee, this principle also applies. Life's unfinished business can take many forms, and anxiety over unresolved issues may manifest in various ways. We each have within us a storehouse filled with emotional truths that are based on our conditioning and personal experiences. During the time you cared for your patient, she may or may not have required your assistance in dealing with such matters. She may have been more comfortable reaching her own conclusions. Perhaps she was unaware of what issues needed to be resolved in her life or was unwilling or unable to discuss them. Whatever the situation, if your patient seems to be lingering in the actively dying stage, it is not unusual for caregivers and other loved ones to feel frustrated with such a deep sense of helplessness. As an intimate caregiver, however, you may have gotten to know your patient so well that to your own amazement, you can successfully anticipate what he requires for emotional closure before death, as described above with my young patient and his father. Of course, it is not always possible to understand what your patients require in this regard. Recalling past conversations with your patient may help you understand what he needs to finalize before successfully leaving this world. The emotional and psychological needs of the Vaishnava patient must never be minimized or ignored. Our goal in caring for
Can I
the
read
dying
that
devotee
sentence?
is to.
Excuse me. Can I read that sentence again? This is so important. The
Mhm.
emotional and psychological needs of the Vaishnava patient must never be minimized or ignored. It's so important. If you get nothing else out of this book, please take that with you. Okay, it's so important because a lot of devotees ignore it, and especially younger devotees. You know, if you can think back on when you were a brand new devotee and you thought that these things didn't matter because you're not your body, Prabhu. So I remember when I was, 53 years ago when I joined the movement, I really thought that I would write letters to my parents and not sign them with love Sangita, because there is no love in the material world, and that hurt them so much. And, I just think that that is so important to understand when we're caregivers to the devotees. We all have emotional and psychological needs, and we need to address them all through life. And if we don't, we're going to be holding a bag of emotional and psychological needs on our deathbed. And we don't want to wait until that late time in our life, which would be the end of life, to deal with them. We need to deal with them all through life and not wait until the very end. So please, please, please take that line with you, and that concept with you, I should say. Okay, thank you. Please continue.
Our goal in caring for the dying devotee is to provide holistic comfort in his final days so he can concentrate his mind on the Lord. To have come this far in caring for the terminally ill devotee and then to intentionally or unintentionally diminish his emotional needs would be a tremendous disservice. If your patient is married with children, and especially young children, she may benefit from having family reassure her that they will be able to carry on once she's gone. Often this provides a patient with the peace of mind she needs to concentrate on more spiritual matters. If agreeable, allow each family member a few minutes of privacy with the patient. If you, the caregiver, are a family member, afford yourself this opportunity as well. Even though a patient may be nonverbal and unresponsive, she can still be reassured about any final anxieties that may be holding her back from an undisturbed and spiritual departure from this world. As previously stated, not all patients enter this actively dying stage. In December 2000, in the Holy Land of Vrindavan, India, our Society of Devotees, as well as the world in general, lost a very dear Vaishnava named Ram. Ramdas Prabhu was a kind and enthusiastic devotee who served as head pujari for 14 years in the ISKCON Los Angeles temple. He was loved and respected by all who knew him and will always be remembered for his gentle and compassionate ways. After being diagnosed with a terminal heart condition, Ramdas moved to Vrindavan to live out his final days with his wife, Krishna Kumari Dasi. In a letter I received dated March 23rd, 2000, she wrote, "On his last day, Ramdas Prabhu read scripture most of the day. In the evening, he had two guests, Kavichandra Swami and Balidas. They chatted about all kinds of philosophical concepts, while Kavichandra Maharaj performed Reiki on Ramdas for 3 hours. The guest left at 9 p.m., and Ramdas had his milk and pills. I called the doctor to inform him of Ram's condition, because at that point he was monitoring him daily. When I walked back into the room where Ram was sitting, he said, 'I'll be all right. You just go to bed.' I could see that the process was already starting, so I sat beside him and helped him hold his favorite picture of Srila Prabhupada's on his chest. I told him, 'Everything is all right. Srila Prabhupada is here,' which was true in every sense. At just 15 minutes before a friend had returned to us a very large photo, at just 15 minutes before a friend had returned to us a very large photo of Srila Prabhupada, I had joked at the door, 'Oh, look, Srila Prabhupada is here.' Fluid was quickly filling Ram's lungs, and I called out, 'Say Krishna, chant.' He began to chant, although it was actually humanly impossible. He turned his face and looked at Srila Prabhupada and said, 'Krishna,' and then left very peacefully. He taught me how to be grateful to everyone and to give everyone I see a smile. And Haribol, of course, he is famous for his 'Remember, Krishna loves you.' He gave of himself tirelessly to any and all at all hours of the day and night. He was very rare. Would anybody else like to read?
Is there anyone else? Yeah, thank you so much.
Haribol, it's Aradhana. I can read.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
We can learn from this example how important it is for the primary caregiver to maintain a calm and spiritual atmosphere during the last few hours and moments of a person's life. Constantly hearing the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra at the time of death is the spiritual prescription given to us by Srila Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, "And whoever at the time of death quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt." Bhagavad Gita 8.5. In his purport regarding this verse, Srila Prabhupada writes, "Anyone who quits his body in Krishna consciousness is at once transferred to the transcendental abode of the Supreme Lord." To remember Krishna, one should chant the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare
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 Rama,
Rama, Hare Rama.
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare-
Incessantly, following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya. In such a way, one will be able to depart from the body successfully, remembering Krishna, and so attain the supreme goal. If your patient is unable to chant the Hare Krishna mantra due to his advanced disease, it is the duty of the caregiver to continuously chant to him. This may have to be very close to the patient's ear if he is experiencing any type of hearing loss due to the disease process. A recording of Srila Prabhupada chanting japa can be played round the clock to ensure that the chanting remains constant. In this way, he will have the opportunity to hear the holy names of the Lord, meditate on his beautiful form, and remember his transcendental pastimes. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 5.3.12, Srila Prabhupada translates, "Dear Lord, we may not be able to remember your name, form, and qualities due to stumbling, hunger, falling down, yawning, or being in a miserable diseased condition at the time of death when there is a high fever. We therefore pray unto you, O Lord, for you are very affectionate to your devotees. Please help us remember you and to utter your holy names, attributes, and activities which can dispel all the reactions of our sinful lives." In his purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, the real success in life is ante narayana smriti, remembering the holy name, attributes, activities, and forms of the Lord at the time of death. Although we may be engaged in the Lord's devotional service in the temple, material conditions are so tough and inevitable that we may forget the Lord at the time of death due to a disease condition or mental derangement. Therefore, we should pray to the Lord to be able to remember his lotus feet without fail at the time of death, when we are in such a precarious condition. With each passing year, increasing number of devotees are leaving this world after battling with painful long-term illnesses. Some were actively engaged in devotional service before they passed away. Others had traveled far from their service and distanced themselves from the community of devotees. In the end, however, many of these dying Vaishnavas returned to the welcoming and loving arms of their god brothers and god sisters in order to spend their final days in the association of devotees. Although some became too ill to chant Hare Krishna themselves, these devotees received the Lord's mercy just the same. At the time of death, kind-hearted Vaishnavas surrounded these dying devotees and chanted the holy name of the Lord to them as they peacefully passed away. This mood of accommodating all devotees at the end of their lives was the inspiration for forming Vaishnava C.A.R.E. Inc., counseling, assistance, resource, and education for the terminally ill and their families. A worldwide network of volunteers who offer emotional and spiritual assistance to terminally ill devotees in their communities by visiting the patients and families. Additionally, the group provides many other opportunities to offer services even from within one's own home. For example, prayer partners send in a weekly prayer for those in need of loving care and inspiration. For additional information about this project, please visit www.vaishnavacare.org. His Holiness Indradyumna Swami writes in his book Diary of a Traveling Preacher, Volume 3, Chapter 30, it is important how one actually leaves this world. In one sense, a devotee's whole life is in preparation for that one moment. The consciousness at death determines one's next destination. There is a Bengali proverb, Bhajan Kara Sadhana Kara Murte Jale Hoy. Whatever bhajan and sadhana one has performed throughout his life will be tested at the moment of death. But what happens if a devotee cannot fix his mind on Krishna at the moment of death? A doctor recently told me that 80% of people are actually unconscious at the moment of death. The body naturally goes into a state of shock before the traumatic moment when the soul leaves the body. Once Ramanu Acharya, after the death of Yamuna Acharya, was pensive with some questions. He requested Kanchipuma, the servant of Lord Raja Krishna, to ask the Lord some questions on his behalf. One of the questions was, what happens if a devotee dies suddenly and is unable to think of you at the time of death? Lord Varadarja replied, then I will think of my devotee. How do you know when death has occurred? Respirations cease. Sometimes a patient will take what appears to be his last breath with a final exhalation a few moments later. Heartbeat ceases, pupils are fixed and dilated, jaw may relax, and mouth may remain slightly open. Eyelids may remain open. Take note of the time of death. If a hospice nurse has overseen the patient's care, notify the hospice at this time. Country and state laws vary, but the nurse may be required to make a visit to pronounce the patient's death. Remain composed and support others who are present. Take solace in the fact that you have done an extraordinary service in caring for the dying devotee. You comforted her physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually throughout the last months of her life. And during her final moments, you assisted her with her journey back home, back to Krishna. The presence of a devotee at the time of death elevates even the killer of the Brahmana to the spiritual sky. Hari Bhakti Vilasa 1086. In a Srimad Bhagavatam class given in Los Angeles in the early 1970s, I personally heard Srila Prabhupada describe, for a devotee, death is just like sleeping. He closes his eyes, and when he opens them, there is Krishna. It is so nice.
What a nice, am I on? Yeah. It's
Thank you.
a nice description of death for a devotee, isn't it? It's so nice.
Beautiful.
Got a
Thank you.
huge smile on his face when he said that.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Do we want to go on? Yeah, we have time, right?
We have
Terrell?
10 more minutes, yeah.
Okay. You want to continue reading?
Anyone else would like to read?
If someone else likes to read, that
I
would be
can
good.
read it.
Sure, Vatsal. Thank you.
Chapter 12 Postmortem Care, Cremation, Ceremony, and Memorial Service. Postmortem Care of the Vaishnava. As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, our Vaishnava tradition recommends a cremation of the body after death rather than burial. It is customary to cleanse and prepare the body in an auspicious manner for the cremation ceremony. Obviously, this would not be an easy task for a close family member or someone who is extremely distraught at this time. However, performing this sacred ritual can be beneficial in several ways, including assisting someone with emotional closure. Whoever performs this duty, however, should be very comfortable doing so. The Hare Krishna Mahamantra should be softly chanted throughout the ritual of preparing the body for cremation. When a devotee has passed away, it is recommended to bathe the body with pure water from one of the sacred rivers of India, such as the Yamuna or Ganges. A small bottle of Ganges water can be purchased online from websites such as www.krishnaculture.com and www.amazon.com. Begin by pouring a small amount of holy water into a clean bowl or basin. Using a washcloth, lightly wipe the body with the holy water. Pat dry with a towel. Tilaka should be applied to the 12 appropriate places of the body while chanting the following mantras.
You could
Nose and
you can just skip that.
you
I
know it? Okay.
we're all familiar.
All right. Next, if possible, obtain sandalwood paste that has first been offered to the deities and write the name of Krishna across the chest of the deceased. The devotee should then be dressed in new devotional clothes. Three things should now be placed in the mouth of the deceased: a tulsi leaf that has first been offered to the Lord, a few drops of charanamrita, bath water from the deities, and dust from the holy Dhamma of Vrindavan. Place a garland from the deities around the neck. A small piece of clothing from the deities is often pinned or tied to the upper portion of the devotee's clothes. A Harinama chadar can be wrapped around the upper body. The body can then be sprinkled with more holy water. This entire purification process before cremation is done with the feeling that we are surrendering the dead body into a sacred fire. Cremation ceremony in the West. The cremation ceremony should be performed at a crematorium where Vaishnava beliefs will be respected. Be aware that not all crematorium will allow family members to be present when the body is placed in the cremation chamber. Be sure to ask before selecting crematorium. Arrangements should be made ahead of time so that the body is cremated as soon as possible after the soul has departed. However, laws vary from state to state and country to country regarding how soon the cremation can take place after death. Your, your hospice staff should be knowledgeable about local regulations. If arrangements can be made for even a few family members and close friends to be present during the cremation, then chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra will bestow the greatest spiritual benefit upon the departed soul as well as everyone in attendance. Memorial service for the Vaishnava. Several years ago, after a devotee passed away in an automobile accident, Srila Prabhupada wrote a letter to Revati Nanda Das concerning a memorial service. An excerpt from this letter, dated November 14, 1973, follows. Regarding the auto accident, just to hold a condolence meeting for Raghavadas Brahmachari and pray for his soul to Krishna for giving him a good chance for advancement in Krishna consciousness. Certainly, Krishna will give him a good place to take birth where he can again begin in Krishna conscious activities. That is sure. But we offer our condolences to a departed soul separated from a Vaishnava. Do you know that there must be prasadam distributed? 3 days after the demise of a Vaishnava, a function should be held for offering the departed soul and all others prasada. This is the system. Srila Prabhupada again instructed the devotees on this matter after a devotee passed away in France. His divine grace advised the devotees to perform a kirtan at the memorial service, followed by a lecture from the Bhagavad Gita regarding the eternal nature of the soul. Anyone present may speak about the qualities of the departed Vaishnava, as well as his devotional activities and any other fond memories they may wish to share. At the conclusion of the service, a prasadam feast should be distributed in honor of the beloved Vaishnava. From a lecture given by His Holiness Indradimna Swami in honor of a departed Vaishnava on 3/30/2001, Philadelphia.
So
When,
this is
go
all
ahead.
you need to know to have a ceremony, a memorial service for a Vaishnava in your community. This is exactly what we do in our Philadelphia ISKCON temple. We follow Prabhupada's orders here of how to do a memorial service when a Vaishnava leaves. So this is all you need to know to have a service. It's so simple and so glorious. And everybody gets together and has kirtan, and you glorify the devotee, you have nice memories of that devotee, and everyone comes up and speaks, and then you have prasadam. And what we do in Philadelphia is we cook the departed devotee's favorite preps, which makes it really personal. So you can keep that in mind as well, please. Go ahead, Vatsala. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Go
sure.
ahead.
When they are able, many devotees from the west bring the ashes of the deceased to the holy Dhamma, or they make an arrangement for someone else to bring the ashes. It is recommended that the ashes of the deceased be immersed in a holy river, such as the Yamuna or Ganges, within 1 year. According to Vaishnava tradition, this final act of care is a most auspicious spiritual service to the departed soul. Remembering the Vaishnava, from reading the Bhagavad Gita, we can understand that the Lord personally protects a soul who has taken shelter at his lotus feet, and at the time of death, the Lord will never abandon his devotee. To remember and honor a departed loved one, family and friends can perform devotional service on the anniversary of his passing away. A service can be performed in memory of the departed soul that can include arati to the deities, kirtan, and a prasadam feast distributed on his behalf. Here are some other suggestions. Offer a donation of money, cloth, jewelry, etc. to the deities on behalf of the deceased. Sponsor a puja, flower garlands, or a new outfit for the deities on behalf of the departed soul. Support a Sunday feast program or festival at one of Srila Prabhupada's temples in the name of your loved one. Plant a fruit or flowering tree in honor of the deceased, and when available, offer its fruits and flowers to the deities. Gather with family and friends to hear Bhagavad Gita, share memories, and honor Prasadam in loving tribute to the departed soul. So, whatever you choose to do to honor the departed Vaishnava on the anniversary of her passing away from this world, it is always recommended that the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and Prasadam distribution accompany your offering. In this regard, when speaking about the passing away of Haridas Thakur, Srila Prabhupada stated in a lecture that means his funeral ceremony was conducted by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. He took the body to the seaside, and in the graveyard, he conducted the funeral ceremony with Kirtan. Kirtan is always there, and after burial, there was distribution of prasadam and Kirtan. Lecture on April 5, 1967, San Francisco. Please consult the appendices at the back of this book for detailed information about how to perform ash immersion ceremonies in Vrindavan and Mayapur, India, as well as more information about the traditional Sharda ceremony, memorial service.
Thank you, Excel.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone who read today. We're actually down to last chapter.
Well,
Really? Yeah, we are.
And we still have appendix A, B, C. Like, you think we should be reading it out when we get to it? Sangeeta Mataji?
Yeah, we could. We
Yeah,
could.
yeah, I
Because
think.
they're written by, one of them is written by Jananivas Prabhu in Mayapur, and the other one is written by Dinabandhu Prabhu in Vrindavan. So I think their words are very important.
Yes, and I think it would be nice that it's on the record,
Yeah.
recorded. Yeah, it would be nice for other devotees to have this information accessible.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
And
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Hey, Hare Krishna. Have a
Hare
good
Krishna.
week,
Thank you.
everybody.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
All glories
All
to
glories to
Srila
Srila
Prabhupada.
Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you.